Good evening, Shortcuts. Stephen here for video number 2 for Wednesday, June 7th, the Shortcuts list. This list is pop music, some new wave, some rock and roll for sure, kind of blues, some classics. You'll see. Where to start? When I was in university in the 90s, I was building a CD collection, as pretty much everyone was, learning to love new bands and watching so many live shows. This is in Belfast, and you develop an affection for bands that are, in inverted commas, yours. So at the time, my Hotmail, and it still is my Hotmail, December_boy2000@hotmail.com, was not because I was born in December, but because I loved September Girls by Big Star. And for those of you who know that band, you know that December Boys got it bad. And I love that. So Big Star was one of those bands. Another was a band on the Creation label who weren't lauded the way other bands on the Creation label were. But they were my favourite band on the Creation label when they were called Velvet Crush. And they had this one record called Teenage Symphonies to God that I loved. And it's kind of my number one on my holy grail list for vinyl. It's impossible to find. Stupid money. And it was only many, many years later that I realised the Teenage Symphonies to God was, of course, their reference to this record. Pet Sounds, the Beach Boys. Brian Wilson's magnum opus. Still the weirdest record sleeve, I think, ever, bar none. And I know there are some out there things, but this is odd. Now, this Japanese pressing is, I think it's 1975, maybe 76. It's kind of this beautiful textured pressing. It's got these kind of little pictures of the band. It sounds incredible. What can be said about Pet Sounds that hasn't been already said? I mean, it's one of the most overanalyzed records in history because it's like Handel and Bach and Zappa and Lennon, McCartney and and all of those, because these folks were geniuses. And, Brian Wilson was a genius. And this record just explains why. Plus it has God Only Knows, which is just truly, truly extraordinary. How do you follow that record? I don't know. But anyway, maybe Michael Jackson can. This record, 1987's Bad. I remember, I would have been 13. The first single, I Just Can't Stop Loving You. The ballad coming out and just everyone going nuts. The Way You Make Me Feel, Man in the Mirror, Smooth Criminal, Dirty Diana, Bad itself. It's like the whole record was just released over the course of 18 months. Now, Thriller I have found really quite easy to find, and it is spectacular in Japanese vinyl. So's Bad, but Bad is harder to find, more expensive. Especially to find one with the Obi as perfect as this. So I'm quite excited. It's got all sorts of extras in there. I can't remember if I've ever had this on the list before. Might well be the first time. 1987, Michael Jackson's Bad. Well, this next record, for those of you who've been in my house, you know my dog's called Bowie, and he's over there asleep on the ottoman. And that's because I love Bowie. I love everything about Bowie. And this record's no exception. Station to Station. David Bowie. Golden Years, Word on a Wing, TVC 15 Stay, Wild as the Wind, and of course, what is it, the 10, 12 minute title track and opening track. Amazing guitar by Carlos Salomar. The genesis of this record, of course, was a very difficult period for Bowie. He'd appeared in The Man Who Fell to Earth, that Nicholas Roeg movie in 1975. He was famously described during, he himself says that he thinks he weighed only 90 pounds during the making of that movie, and you can tell he looks seriously skinny on screen. He was described, his diet was described quite famously as red peppers, green peppers, milk, and cocaine. Not a great mix. But he found a way after attempting to go into rehab with Iggy Pop, but Iggy Pop couldn't go into rehab, couldn't find a way to kick his heroin habit. Good friends. He found his way to LA and made Station to Station in a pretty frenzied period. I mean, iconically, it was described as this record was kind of created in 10 days, but I think common sense has prevailed. How would you record something as intricate and beautiful as this in 10 days? The conventional wisdom is now that it was a couple of months. But it's a marvelous record. If you don't know it lays the groundwork for the Berlin trilogy, because you can hear Neu! And Kraftwerk and Krautrock in this record already, particularly on the title track. But, a song like Golden Years is, is it disco? Is it pop? I don't know what it is. It's just Bowie. It's just great. So, brilliant album. And that is a Japanese first press, and it sounds magnificent. This next record is a little bit different, but I guess equally iconic. And this sleeve is the interesting thing for me. Beggar's Banquet, the Rolling Stones. Many people believe this is the Rolling Stones' greatest record. I guess it's got some serious competition. Sympathy for the Devil, No Expectations, Dear Doctor, Parachute Woman, Jigsaw Puzzle, Street Fighting Mans. My favourite deep cut Rolling Stones song, Stray Cat Blues. Charlie Watts' drumming on that song is incredible. Factory Girl, and then the rather lovely Salt of the Earth. So it is an utterly magnificent record. And why is this so interesting? Well, because this is the toilet sleeve the record company initially rejected when they went with this really boring kind of white with this typeface, Beggar's Banquet, which was, of course, the Japanese sleeve of choice. But this is a Japanese pressing. In the 80s, they released a series of records, re-released classics, and this sleeve, the greatest of the Beggar's Banquet sleeves, eventually got its Japanese debut. First time I've ever had it. Sounds fantastic. There you go. Thought you might like that. These next three records would be upper echelon records for me. If I'm making my list of top 20s, and things will move in and out all the time, these three next records are always in the mix. The Talking Heads, Remain in Light, 1980, the last of their incredible run of records with Brian Eno. Features my favourite Talking Heads song, Cross-Eyed and Painless, Adrian Bellew on guitar in places. Once in a Lifetime, what a single, what a video. Flopped at the time. Really developed its own life though with that incredible video, and then the live version recorded on Stop Making Sense. How exciting it's going to be to see Stop Making Sense be released later this year. Remain in Light, Japanese First Press. If you don't have it, it's incredible. As is this. Could not be more different. 2022, this record was inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame. But it could equally be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Certainly Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But I think the blues is right. My favourite song on this record is Before You Accuse Me, which has been covered by all sorts of people. But Bo Diddley's original version from 1958 is the one to have. On the Chess label, this is a compilation of Bo Diddley's singles, I think from 56, 57 and 58. There's 12, 13 songs. Every single one of them is utterly fantastic. It's just a stellar record. And of course, the beauty of these Japanese pressings is the sleeve remains beautiful and intact, not buggered and crabbed and wrecked. Bo Diddley, I'm a Man. You'll recognise I'm a Man because the riff from I'm a Man is just a solid blues riff. It's been ripped off by every man and his dog for decades since. Of course, Before You Accuse Me, Dearest Darling, Hush Your Mouth, the opening track on side 2, is worth the price of entry alone. The utterly magnificent Bo Diddley by Bo Diddley, debut album, 1958. I did mention some new wave pop. This is another debut record. The debut record by the B-52s with Kate Pearson and all the weirdos from Athens, Georgia. I've talked about this record before. It's got a place in my heart. I love weirdness. It's a really odd, weird, skewed, creative, genius record. Rock Lobster et al. I defy you not to smile listening to B-52s. This next record is weird as well, albeit in a very different way. It's weird as in how I am. When I listen to this record, which I quite enjoy it, it reminds me a little bit of Austin Powers because it's the stories are so squalid and filled with double entendres and bon mots and all sorts of silliness. Yet, it's this deeply sonorous voice and these lush orchestral pop arrangements. It is the Japanese First Press of Scott II. You can see the song titles in Japanese on the back. Thankfully, the song titles are in English on the label and on the inside. But it's one of these records where there's kind of like a mini booklet inside. Let's see if I can just show you. See how this folds. I think Jackie, the opening track, was a top 20 hit in the UK, and you'll recognise it immediately. Windows of the World. But the songs that I like are the songs like The Girls and the Dogs, which tells a rather arcane story. Best to listen to this record alongside, use the lyrics function on Spotify, put it on your record player, try and read the lyrics as you go, or or use the inside sleeve as the English translation. It's bonkers. He was a deeply strange guy, but it makes for very entertaining music. Okay, a couple of classics to finish. I have a whole selection of Beatles records now. I've got Revolver, Rubber. Oh, do I have Rubber Soul? I definitely got Help. Big selection of Beatles. I've got a new copy, a really nice copy of Let It Be that's just come in. But I wanted to show you this copy of Sgt. Pepper. I rave about these hard cardboard gatefolds. They just are magnificent, beautiful things that have longevity and life and all sorts of inserts, of course. But the good thing about this copy is that the cutouts are intact, including the moustache. If you wanted to make your own Sgt. Pepper model, the moustache, the picture card, the stripes, the badges, and little curves for making it stand up, as you do. Very, very thoughtful. Of course, Sgt. Pepper rounding out this selection that started out Pet Sounds. So finishing with Sgt. Pepper was a little bit deliberate. Forgive me, my little in-joke. There you have it. Pop, new wave, and rock and roll. The selection, 2 shortcuts, 9 p.m. on Wednesday. Any questions, let me know. Subscribe as always. Anything interesting you want to chat to me about, reach out. And have a lovely, lovely week. Thanks, everyone.